Hello and welcome to my channel. Why are people? That was the title of the first chapter in a book I read recently. My name's Alexander and today I'm going to review The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. It was published in 1976 and is basically an explanation of how evolution works. It's non-fiction, so I'm not going to do a plot summary. Now, I was actually surprised by this book because I thought I understood pretty well how the basics of evolution work. It turns out I was wrong. You see, we tend to think of evolution as being centred around the species. So, for example, we can understand the concept that one animal might sacrifice itself willingly in order to protect the entire herd that it finds itself in. This way of thinking is completely wrong. By the same logic, we would also expect lions to be kind to antelopes just because that would promote the survival of mammals in general. No. To fully understand what's going on, we have to dig deeper and go from the level of the species past the level of the individual and go all the way down to the level of the gene. The message of the book is essentially that the behaviour we would observe in animals stems from the gene's attempts to survive and propagate themselves. This is an important shift in perspective. It means that we shouldn't consider DNA to be our tool that we use for reproducing. Rather, we, the animals and the humans, are the tool that DNA uses to replicate. It's a very interesting concept and it really makes the whole book worth reading. Two small things to just note here. One, Dawkins isn't trying to argue that upbringing hasn't got any importance in what we become. He's just trying to explain how evolution and genes work. Two, Richard Dawkins is an important, renowned biology professor, and so the views he expresses in The Selfish Gene isn't just his own opinion, it is the scientifically correct way of looking at things. Now, just from looking at the title and the cover, you may get some wrong ideas about the book, and I thought I'd put those straight in this review. If you have doubts about whether evolution is true, this is not really the book you're looking for. The Selfish Gene assumes that you accept evolution as being true, and then goes on from there. Richard Dawkins has written another book called The Greatest Show on Earth, which is probably more suitable for your purposes. Also, the title may be misconstrued as saying that we have a gene in us that makes us selfish. This is not the right meaning. What Dawkins is using is the metaphor that genes themselves can be considered to be selfish in the sense that they will only be thinking of their own propagation and not the propagation of other genes, or even think about the welfare of the being in which it finds itself. It doesn't follow, however, that animals and human beings themselves should turn out to be selfish. In fact, Dawkins spends a lot of time showing that kind and altruistic behaviour could not only arise, but that it's what we would expect to see if the selfish gene theory is true. If you're worried you're going to get confused by scientific terms and difficult calculations, do not fret. You see, Richard Dawkins is an expert himself, but the book is written for an audience of non-specialists, and on top of that, it's actually rather riveting. I surprised myself by how quickly I finished the book. So, keeping in mind that this is non-fiction, it still somehow manages to all the time draw you in and keep you interested. At least that's what I found, and I think that's the reason that this book has actually become one of my favourite non-fiction books. So, final thoughts on the book? I would definitely recommend it. If you're not into all that science stuff and things like that, it's up to you whether you want to read it. But if you have the least interest in evolution, you must read this. It's a very clear and pleasant summary of the theory of evolution, and chances are that there are some small aspects of the theory that you haven't actually fully understood. And thus ends my review of The Selfish Gene. Now, I know that evolution can sometimes be a sensitive topic, especially here on YouTube, and I suppose my own views have become rather apparent with this video. But I would like to know, what kind of an audience do I have? What do you think? Do you think evolution is true? Do you think creation and evolution aren't mutually exclusive? Do you think evolution is just like a scientific conspiracy? Do you think people who believe in scientific conspiracies are dumb? Challenge for you, try answering all these questions in the comments without starting a flame war. Good luck. Hope you enjoyed the review and see you soon.